What's up, everybody? If you're catching me on the live stream, it's just me again. Jake's still having problems. He's back at his normal studio, but, you know, technical issues are technical issues. Jake, how's it going, brother?
Dude, I'm ordering a dongle right now as we speak. I'm hoping this is what the issue is. I've changed nothing over the past 3 weeks, and all of a sudden we're getting issues. This reminds me of when we started the Spaces almost 2 years ago, and we were having these same technical issues from my end.
Literally the dongle for like almost 10 days. Like I can't, it was literally dozens of hours trying to figure it out. Turned out to be a $2 item off Amazon, man, right? It's crazy, dude.
Absolute pain. I do have to say also the intro sounded a lot better. It was not broken this time.
Oh,
so
weird.
I don't know what you changed this time, but
literally nothing, right? It's like you, literally nothing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, bro.
Oh man. I mean, I'm excited for this conversation. A lot of stuff's been happening. I mean, you know, outside of Counterparty, Adam's World of Bells has been absolutely on a tear. It's actually attracting, you know, some of the original kind of Bitcoin ordinals, Counterparty community as well, because it offers, you know, some of those degrees of self-sovereignty and decentralization. And then, you know, in the world of Emblem, Spells of Genesis has actually been catching a ton of interest over the last, I guess, month and a half since we launched Emblem Markets. I'm looking at Emblem Markets right now, and Spells of Genesis has close to 100 ETH in volume over the last about 45 days. And yeah, so between Rare Pepe, Emblem Open, which has been a bunch of bundle collections. Yesterday, we saw 100 shitcoin cards in a single vault sell for 5 ETH. We saw, it looked like almost a complete set of Spells of Genesis outside the rare ones sold for 5 ETH. And then we saw 50 Gox card sell in a vault for 5 ETH as well. So between Rare Pepe, these bundle collections, and Spells of Genesis, we're looking at close to 300 ETH in volume. So close to, you know, $750,000. Counterparty is so back. I'm excited for this conversation, man.
Incredible. I mean, just to remind everybody, you know, listing them directly on the site, emblem.markets, super easy. And we want people to test stuff out there. So if you're doing trades and stuff, we'd love to have you do it directly from our site. You know, you're going to save the OpenSea fee, obviously. But beyond that, just to make sure we're functioning correctly, right? This is a tool for the community. So we appreciate you guys listing directly on the site.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of updates still to Emblem Markets. It's still in the works. And, you know, we'll probably have a similar conversation with Shaban of sharing pains of what it's like to build a marketplace. But yeah, please give us some feedback. If you list directly on Emblem Markets, you're only paying a 1% fee versus OpenSea, which most people are paying a 2.5% fee. Our goal eventually is to get that marketplace fee down to 0%. And it's a ongoing conversation with our liquidity and infrastructure providers there. And also some other Counterparty news. We have migrated a handful of collections that are complete. You'll see some information rolling out through the Emblem account. Age of Chains, Age of Rust, Bitcoin, Bit Girls, Memory Chain, and Saratobi from Counterparty have been complete. We still have to finish out Spells of Genesis, Oasis Mining, and Rare Pepe and Fake Rares. Moving over about, I think, 70 Nakamoto cards here over the next few days. That'll put 100 Nakamoto cards inside vaults, so about 33% of the supply. Hopefully brings a little bit more liquidity to the markets. You know, I also pinned to the top here some of the vaults, some of the package bundle vaults that have been selling recently. So if you want to give them a retweet, but more importantly, make sure you retweet this space so that the entire Counterparty community and the broader Bitcoin community will join us here, and so that they can hear what's going on with Counterparty 2.0. And so without further ado, Adam, man, good to see you. I'm going to pin up to the top too some of the recent updates while I'll go through this conversation, man. How's the life of building Counterparty V2?
It's good. It's good. Very exciting stuff. Thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be back. And yeah, moving on multiple fronts. Exciting developments in the infrastructure, on the protocol, the node software. all the above.
What's the now I know just from, I guess Joe Looney was saying it's much easier to run the Counterparty node. Can you just give updates on that for people who are interested in actually running one? What's the what do they need to know about that now, about how to install it? I've heard it's much easier and much lighter. Can you give a little update on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the beginning of the year, it was pretty impossible. And it had been for a while. The catch-up time, right, the time required to sort of start a node from scratch and read through the whole history of the Bitcoin blockchain was weeks. And there were consensus bugs and other problems that made it really challenging, if not impossible, to catch up. And we've been squashing bugs. We've been improving performance massively, and now we're at sub 24-hour reparse time from scratch, which is, I think, in line with what Ordinals has. It's sort of a reasonable standard. There are more performance upgrades going forward, but now it's quite possible, and that's really exciting. It's critical for people to be able to run their own nodes for the ecosystem to thrive. Otherwise, everyone's just sort of running off of a couple servers that can go down or fail, right? It's also counter to the ethos of the community, right? This is supposed to be a decentralized system. It's supposed to be trustless. That means running your own node, running and like running through all those transactions, verifying the transaction history yourself.
Yeah, I think that for me, when I heard Joe, like, no, I haven't run one in years or whatever, I was like, whoa. Yeah, that means that a normal dude like me, there's zero chance, right? If Joe's not running it, a normal monkey it's impossible for them, basically, right? So that's a great improvement, man. Congrats on that one.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of hard work. And now, I mean, if you want to run your own node, go to the official docs. You can go to the Counterparty website, counterparty.io, docs.counterparty.io, and there are instructions on how to do Docker, or how to do it just with a local install. It's Python. There are a couple dependencies, but it's really pretty easy and straightforward, and is tested regularly to make sure we don't have a regression, or to make sure that it always stays working.
Adam, could you explain to us what the process is for setting up a node, and then also, is there any differences or benefits of setting up a node? Any differences between running a node for Counterparty versus, let's say, running a Bitcoin node, and then any unique features that come with that?
Yeah, so you need to run a Bitcoin node to run a Counterparty node. Counterparty depends upon Bitcoin. Every counterparty, all the counterparty data is on Bitcoin, so that's the repository for all that data. You could theoretically use a Bitcoin node hosted by someone else, but it'll be slower. You want to be able to access your Bitcoin data very quickly. The node software does that. So it's very similar to Ordinals. Ordinals has a great ecosystem. It's pretty easy to spin things up. I think that contributed to its popularity. And so that's sort of our baseline. Like, we want to be at least as good as that, even better. And there's one sort of small gotcha to running a Counterparty node, which is that you need this other piece of software as well. You need a Bitcoin node running locally. You also need a piece of software called Address Index RS, which is it sort of does some work in the back end to build an index of data on the Bitcoin blockchain, which Bitcoin Core doesn't do itself, and Counterparty needs that. Counterparty didn't need that until the end of last year. So for the vast majority of Counterparty's history, it didn't need this extra piece of software. But unfortunately, a patch was merged in that unintentionally made that a dependency. So there's this extra piece of software you have to install, which uses a couple hundred gigabytes of disk space. That will be going away after the next version of Counterparty. We are making some changes to revert those patches from the end of last year, so that you won't have that dependency, and that'll make the Counterparty work a lot better.
Wow. Okay. So then maybe, in terms of timelines, so you're now to the next version. So what version is this? Since you joined almost a year ago. Would you consider this V2 and then there's like a V3 version, or kind of talk about the differences?
Yeah, sure. Let me say it's still quite possible to run a counterparty node. It's very straightforward, but we're going to make it really turnkey. I have high standards when it comes to this. It will be getting better and better. All of this is sort of within the context of a counterparty V2. Development was very slow for the past 8 years or so. There was obviously like the initial push that we did in 2014, and then it really slowed to a halt at the end of that year, at the beginning of 2015. Starting in January, we picked back up the development, and what we've been doing is we've been fixing things up, sort of starting to maintain it again, improve the testing, improve the API, improve the performance, improve all of these things to get it in a healthy shape, to get the code base in a healthy shape, to get the ecosystem in a healthy shape, the infrastructure in a good place. And now that we've done that, we're working on the next version of Counterparty, of the Counterparty node, which is version 10.4. And version 10.4 is important because it's the first protocol change that we've done this year. For the first major protocol change since I came back and since development has been reinvigorated. It really is the first one that has important new user-facing features. For the past 8 months, we've been improving things that are important for developers, how to run a node, how to interact with a node, making it faster and more stable. But with version 10.4, which will be out in a matter of weeks, users will start to see important changes because the functionality is changing. A lot of big things are happening in that release. And I can talk about what those things are.
Yeah, right. I think the big one that everyone is interested in is PSBT support. I do have open in front of me, like all of the things that you noted in the last update, but let's just start with the big one that everyone's really curious about. UTXO support. It says a gas system for UTXO support, and then native atomic swaps, right? Yeah. This is kind of what all these meta protocols on Bitcoin are really trying to tackle or try to get, is native atomic swaps. And I did see on Shaban's video of him having atomic swaps for his marketplace, which maybe we'll dive into a little bit. But yeah, let's just dive into UTXO support.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's as you sort of suggested, it's a constellation of a few features that all really qualitatively change how Counterparty works by adding this additional level of integration with Bitcoin and other Bitcoin layer 2s. Historically, Counterparty has been, and Counterparty has always been a meta protocol, but historically Counterparty didn't integrate with the UTXO architecture of Bitcoin. It sort of treated Bitcoin just as a log of data, a log of very simple transactions. And we're bringing the integration to the next level by doing a couple of things. We're allowing counterparty assets to interact with UTXOs, which are sort of the native units of state in Bitcoin blockchain. And that allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to move a counterparty asset, any counterparty asset, into an output in Bitcoin, which you can then move around using a vanilla Bitcoin wallet. It allows you, it's a building block into allowing atomic swaps, right? A single transaction, trustless swap between a counterparty asset and Bitcoin itself or Bitcoin layer 2s. And that's sort of the critical thing, that it's this deepening of the integration between Counterparty and Bitcoin and other Bitcoin protocols.
And from like a practicability or usability sense, when you're attaching a counterparty asset to UTXO, what does that actually look like? Is this something that is placed on maybe the front end developers, or is this more of a back end thing? Is it going to be as simple as clicking 2 buttons and it says move rare Pepe or attach rare Pepe to UTXO, or is there something more complex to it?
No, it's pretty straightforward. It should be a single button click. Behind the hood, it's sort of similar to a traditional send transaction. So instead of sending your rare Pepe to another user, to another address, you send it to an output of that attached to that address, and a UTXO of that address. And so it's really just a send operation. It's a single transaction. And if you don't specify a destination, you can specify, you can say, I want to send this Rare Pepe to this other user, this other person's output, or you can just sort of say attach it to an output and it'll generate an output for you. So it's a single button click. And that needs to be implemented in UIs, of course, for users to have access, but it's going to be very easy in the API. It's a single API call attached to UTXO. Yeah, that's the important thing.
Can you attach multiple counterparty assets to a single UTXO?
Yes, you can.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's cool. So that's that would be important for atomic swap or DEX trading, right? So let's say if I use Pepe Cash for an example, right? Pepe Cash is a supply of almost 1 billion. So attaching a single Pepe Cash to one UTXO would be quite mundane. It wouldn't make sense. But could I attach 400,000 Pepe Cash to a single UTXO?
Yep. It's like a send. You can send any quantity, and then that'll be attached to that UTXO. And then when you move that output around, then the Pepe Cash go along with it.
That's cool. It's kind of like how a vault works in a sense. It's really, really neat. So then looking at this documentation, the next kind of, I guess, the more advanced component to this then leads to something called a gas system for UTXO support. Yeah. The first line says, when Counterparties first created, the XCP fees for various transactions were hard-coded to low constant values. This system was chosen for its simplicity. Would you like to explain what that means?
Yeah. So of course, as we know, counterparty transactions often have fees attached to them beyond the underlying Bitcoin transaction fee, right? If you send a counterparty transaction, you create a counterparty transaction, you're going to pay Bitcoin fees.
Oh, do we lose him?
I think we lost him. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe got a phone call or something like that. Adam, you there? If not, maybe
I got you, man. The other Adam's here. Adam, yeah, just drop down, man, and come back up. Actually, this it's interesting. I'd like to have Shaban kind of Oh, there you go. Wait, you're back, Adam. You cut out there for about 15 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you cut out for about 15 seconds.
Where did I leave off?
Just go. You probably have to go through it all again.
Okay, sure. So when Counterparty was first,
yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. Every counterparty transaction has an associated Bitcoin fee, right? Because every counterparty transaction is a Bitcoin transaction. But for some counterparty transactions, there's also an XCP fee. And that's because the counterparty operation is sort of heavier. It's on top of the Bitcoin network. The Bitcoin nodes have to process the Bitcoin transaction, but then counterparty nodes have to process the counterparty aspect. They have to parse it as a counterparty transaction. And the canonical example of this is issuing a named asset. Because there's a finite space of named assets, right, to exist in, right, the names themselves, there's a fee attached to the issuance or creation of a new named asset in Counterparty. And then there are a few other fees in Counterparty as well. The issue is that the current fee system in Counterparty, which was created 10 years ago, is terrible. It's the worst of both worlds. It's a 0.5 XCP fee per transaction, and it's hard coded to that value. And that's problematic because it is simultaneously too low of a value to be economically significant. If you're doing any operation, the $3 fee isn't going to significantly disincentivize you from, say, creating large numbers of transactions, because you already have to pay the Bitcoin fee, and the Bitcoin fee is on the order of $1. And it also is a non-zero value, and so it means that you have to get XCP in order to interact with Counterparty at all. in order to do that operation in Counterparty. So the reason that we have this problem is because the fee system is simple and dumb and hasn't changed in years. So for 10.4, for this new release, we are creating a new gas system, and the algorithm is a little more complicated for how the fees are determined, and it's based upon usage. So when there are not a lot of a particular transaction type in the Bitcoin network, and occurring in Counterparty, then the fees are zero, exactly zero. And then over time, as usage goes up, the fees appear, and then they increase. And once they get above a certain threshold, they increase rapidly to sort of bring them down to a more reasonable level. And we're implementing this gas system for attaching Counterparty assets to UTXOs, for the attach operation. So if you want to move your rare Pepe into a UTXO today, or as soon as the 10.4 is released next month, the fee will be zero. You will need to own 0 XCP. But once people start using it, and once there's significant number of transactions in every Bitcoin block that are doing this operation, then the fees will appear, and it's all going to be automatic. And it's designed to sort of balance supply and demand, right? The more people want to do this operation, the higher the fees will be. And that is, inspired by how other blockchains do it. But specifically for Counterparty.
So one question there, just in there, is that, so this is only if the block starts getting full with Counterparty transactions, correct? Not just regular Bitcoin transactions.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's per operation. So there's a number. There's like a target number of attach operations per block, and when that number, as the number of attach operations reaches that number, then the fees appear. So I think that the number, I forget what the number we specified is. I specified it a couple weeks ago, but let's say it's 10 attach operations. Then when the number of attaches per block averages below 10, the fees are zero. But once it hits 10, then it slowly starts to increase.
So it sounds like this is somewhat of an auction system, something similar you would see on smart contract platforms, correct? Where if there's more than 10 counterparty assets being attached to UTXO, you basically have to bid, or you're essentially kind of bidding to get into the next block.
It's not really a bidding system. It's more that the fees are sort of balanced. It's sort of like the difficulty algorithm. That was actually the most direct inspiration. So when nodes start producing blocks too quickly in Bitcoin, the difficulty increases, and then over time, increases or decreases. And then the network balances the difficulty of generating a new block based upon how quickly blocks have been produced. So it's not an auction system. There are potential auction systems that can be created, but the auction system wouldn't work very well with Counterparty because there are no Counterparty miners. The Counterparty miner is just a Bitcoin miner, and the network is still too small for Bitcoin miners to care about that. There is sort of an implicit auction system for Counterparty because you're using Bitcoin fees. But on top of that, there's this XCP fee, which only arises above a threshold level.
Got it. I remember the first conversation we had with you, the XCP fee was kind of at the heart of some of the issues, or I guess maybe one of the main conflictions in the community on whether to keep it, implement it even further, or remove it. You see here on the documentation, one thing says eliminate fee on sub-asset registration. Does this just mean you're removing XCP fees for sub-assets and not for minting an asset? You still have to, if you want to mint a Counterparty token, you still have to burn XCP?
Correct, yeah. So this gas system that we're implementing for attaching assets to UTXOs is designed to solve the problem of these fees are annoying and useless. And we're initially only implementing it for that attach operation. We haven't proposed implementing it for issuing named assets yet, but I would love to do that. I think that that's the appropriate thing to do. I think that we should get rid of all the hard-coded fees, especially small hard-coded fees, because it's a huge barrier to entry into the platform. and we should replace it with this algorithm like that we're developing, the gas system for UTXO management. And that would apply to named assets. Sub-assets, there's really no reason for them to have a fee at all. It's a huge barrier to entry, and there's no squatting problem. And so there's no real reason to disincentivize users from creating a large number of sub-assets.
Where do, so these fees, do they just get burned or they get put somewhere?
They get burned.
Okay.
Proof of burn. It's I'm glad that you kind of touched on the point of, just fees that cause friction. This was the same decision Emblem had to make in terms of removing Coval to mint vaults. Because the one thing we've learned is that even, 2 additional steps of acquiring a new token and then spending it, really, prevents a large majority of people from participating in the network. So I'm glad that you are moving towards that way and recognizing that, the way that crypto is moving, at least the UI UX, is to be as similar as you can to Amazon's one-click kind of checkout process. I think that's the smart thing to do here. Some final notes that I see on this docket, and then we'll dive into the Counterparty marketplace. I see on here there's a fair minting protocol. Would you like to describe what that is and how that differentiates from the current minting model?
Yeah, absolutely. That's another very exciting feature. So the idea is to create a feature, to create a system for allowing users to create a token in a fair and decentralized manner. Instead of creating the token and giving it to themselves and then selling that token to everyone, they can create what's called a fair minter. And then users can send either Bitcoin or XCP to that address that they've set up and mint the token when they do that. And that creates the token, mints the token in a fair and decentralized manner. And this exists in other protocols. It was actually created in Counterparty using the burn mechanism in a way that was sort of unnatural and non-native. And this is a generalization of that initial solution. And it's very useful for protocols that are building on top of Counterparty, that want to build other products and platforms on top of Counterparty.
Yeah, thinking about the decentralized application layer on Counterparty, it'll be a fun conversation we have, maybe at the end of the year, beginning of next year, once that starts coming into fruition. 2 final notes here. There's something that's called sub-assets on numerics. It just says there's no particular reason to disallow sub-assets on numeric assets, and there's a strong Counterparty demand to be able to do so. Does this mean that stamps can have sub-assets?
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of features that the community has been demanding that you're saying, hey, listen, this would be really useful. We would love to have that. And for some reason, they weren't implemented. And there's a bit of a culture of conservatism in the Counterparty community that I've identified before. My approach is, if users are asking for it and it's not harmful or damaging or problematic or complex or what have you, then implement it. Users know what they want, and Counterparty is first and foremost a platform to support the users that want to do stuff with it. And they're going to do things that I haven't envisioned. And that's what's powerful about it.
I think that's the right way to go about this. One final note here. There's 2 different sections on dispensers. As we know, dispensers have been basically the primary way outside of Emblem, or the primary way on chain to trade Counterparty assets natively. But there were some issues in terms of front running or losing your assets. It looks like you've implemented a new dispensing transaction type and maybe have solved some of these issues.
Yeah. The story is that there's no way to solve the front running problem with dispensers. It's a fundamental feature of how dispensers are architected and designed. However, there are a lot of other problems with the way that dispensers were implemented and designed that we can fix. In particular, accidental dispenses, creating dispensers on public addresses, etc. And in this release, we're going to be fixing as many of those as we can. we're also trying to maintain as much backwards compatibility as we can. And we're doing a pretty good job. If you're using the Counterparty API right now to trigger a dispenser, you don't have to do anything. It'll just work. There's going to be a shift, which is that you won't be able to use a vanilla Bitcoin wallet to trigger a dispenser. You'll have to use a counterparty aware wallet. You'll have to use a counterparty node to create that Bitcoin transaction. However, that's what allows us to prevent the accidental dispenses that cause people to lose lots and lots and lots of money. This change will also allow for like a dramatic simplification of the code base, major improvements across the board in terms of complexity, performance, etc. So we're doing a major cleanup there, improvement, just resolving bugs and problems with the original design.
Is there going to be any need for dispensers after this, we kind of get, full UTXO support, atomic swaps? Is that even, are dispensers even going to be useful at that point?
Good question. I think that they will be for a little while. I think that the economics of dispensers are going to be a little bit more favorable initially. It's going to take some time until we have tweaked and optimized the atomic swaps protocol to be as cheap or cheaper than dispensers in every case. But the goal is very much, we also have to build infrastructure out for the marketplace, right? With the atomic swaps, there will be an order book, and this whole infrastructure needs to be built around that. We're working hard on that. We're releasing a wallet that's going to have support for that in the next couple months. So once that infrastructure is built out, once we've optimized the protocol to be as cheap or cheaper than dispensers, then I think it'll be better. But right now it's going to be, in every case. But now I think it'll be better just in many cases.
So the wallet that you're developing, is this a traditional web extension wallet, something similar you see to like Xverse or Unisat?
Yeah, it will be, it's in Flutter. It's written in Flutter, so it'll be natively cross-platform. But initially, it'll be a website and a web extension that you'll be able to download for security reasons. And then over time, we'll release the mobile versions on iOS and Android.
Yeah, I think that's been probably one of the biggest barriers in terms of Counterparty is being stuck with a desktop wallet and not having the ability to add it. To integrate into a bunch of these platforms. So dude, you guys have been really crushing it. It's really exciting to see. Do you think Counterparty can, compete with ordinals in this sense, but also runes, because Counterparty can produce both NFTs and fungible token? Like, I actually just have one more conversation. I got to know about this application layer. I was going to save it for next conversation, but thinking about the future here, then UTXO support, web extension wallet, right? Dispensers have been fixed. A lot of the main friction have been loosened, and it's making it easier for users to come in. What would an ecosystem look like? Decentralized applications built on top of Counterparty.
Yeah, we want to build all that, and we're really on the path to do that. Counterparty is fundamentally more flexible and powerful than something like ordinals or runes, because it allows for arbitrary smart contracts, because it's not just limited by what you can do with Bitcoin script. And you can actually see, I think it's the runes project I was just reading about, has a proposal out there, or at least an idea for a proposal out there to effectively replicate some of Counterparty's functionality. Counterparty already has all that and has its mature ecosystem, but it doesn't have the infrastructure to do that. And we're going to have, with this update, with 10.4, the best of both worlds. We're going to have all of that functionality of all these smart contracts that you can already do in Counterparty, and you're going to have the integration with Bitcoin and L2s that allow for the atomic swaps and so forth. So yeah, I think that Counterparty absolutely will be able to compete. And it has also the benefit of the history, right? It has those first NFTs. It has these original Bitcoin blockchain-based games. It has all of that value in those NFTs, tokens, trading cards, et cetera, that are very, very valuable that no other protocol can create.
So then do you see, if there's a fruitful application layer on top of it, do you think these applications are more focused on DeFi, right? Like you've mentioned, DEX trading and perps and things like this. Yeah. Do you think there's an opportunity for NFTFi, or is there any opportunity for,
100%.
consumer facing applications, which have not really came to Bitcoin yet because of its, lack of smart contract functionality. Just curious, where do you see applications leaning towards?
Yeah, 100%. I think that this year we'll be able to implement automated market making, LPs, all of the sort of DeFi infrastructure on Counterparty as effectively Bitcoin native smart contracts. And again, with all the integration of the existing NFTs ecosystem, we'll have all of that. There's no reason not to. And then we'll go beyond that. And then we'll try and figure out what we had in their ideas and their GitHub issues and proposals on the internet. All of these things that we can do with Counterparty to extend the economy on Bitcoin. That's DeFi and lots of related things.
I think there's a comment from Chepe on the live stream. He says, if you can recreate the Phantom wallet experience, Counterparty can take over. Whether it's creating a wallet, hiring, collaborating with Phantom Wallet, period. I think to that point, it's kind of this idea, and this where it gets tricky from a wallet perspective, is how do you simplify the experience? Because it's a complicated experience that actually ruins the experience for the user, right? And this is the difficult thing, is not adding a lot of features. It's actually taking away features. How do you look at that from a creative perspective when you're creating the wallet?
Yeah, the wallet we're developing is really designed to be simple, straightforward, modern. We are taking a lot of inspiration from other blockchains, which frankly have more mature wallets and wallet software than we do, right? It's just a lot of, very often people look at Counterparty, or especially, people in the core community, and they look at Counterparty and they say, isn't it so great that we've avoided all of that it's so complicated and so hard, right? We're the real OG blockchainers. And well, we are, but there's no reason that it has to be a pain in the ass to use. It doesn't follow that that it has to take 7 clicks instead of 1 click to do the same thing, or that it has to be expensive, or that it has to involve switching between 3 different pieces of wallet software to do a single operation efficiently. That's where we currently are, right? A lot of the people who are most skilled in the Counterparty ecosystem and building a Counterparty aren't using Counterparty wallets. They're manually constructing their transactions with Electrum in order just to have a reasonable wallet dynamics. And there's no reason to do that. We can just build software that works and that is user friendly and that is still true to Counterparty and the Counterparty history, and has all of that built in. So we're taking real inspiration from other wallets and other products which have solved a lot of problems. They figured out what a good workflow is. Not 100% of it, but a lot of it.
Absolutely love to hear it. From the development side, I know the excitement is building. I mean, it's definitely showing through just the trading activity, increasing that everyone is ready for all layers of it. I'd love to now, shoot it over to Shaban. First, say congrats on Counterparty Marketplace. I did watch your video where you went through a little bit of a tutorial. Much needed improvement for the native experience of trading Counterparty assets. I'll just start with kind of just this simple question of, as you're building Counterparty Marketplace, where did you identify the weaknesses in the current experiences, and what are you trying to optimize for with Counterparty Marketplace that improves, the overall experience for I guess, traders, collectors, sellers, etc.
Yeah. So we're building on Counterparty since really a long time, and in 2014-15, the experience on Counterparty was really top notch, I would say, for the time. It was super easy to create a token using DEX. It was, I would say, accessible. And Ethereum was horrible. Like the first Mist wallet, and you had to do very complicated things just to get a token. If you compare it to Counterparty, it was really crazy. And over time, so we decided to work on Book of Forbes. in order to have Counterparty that looks a little bit less like a financial tool, but more of the fun things where you can collect. And over time, Ethereum developed and other chain a lot. And the experience on Ethereum and other Solana, or you name it, has become super easy, super slick, to the point that Counterparty now is very complicated. And people need easy access, easy interface, things that are simplified. And we have a lot of our own things, like Spells of Genesis, basically, that is built on top of Counterparty and is valuable of his historical nature. But when we want to onboard anyone who does not know Counterparty yet, it's impossible. Right now, the only people who can use Counterparty is the OGs who followed everything. But if you want to tell anybody else of the value of Counterparty, it's a nightmare. There's a lot of points. So Ethereum, as Adam mentioned, often received a lot of funding from VCs. They were able to invest in a lot of infrastructure, also positioning, branding, and everything, while Counterparty, being purely decentralized, do not benefit from that part. So as a result, I think we have a really strong tech, as Adam mentioned it before, and it's getting even better right now. But we really need something human, that is fun, that is approachable, that can bring new users to get the fun, and we just need to be up to standard. So just as the wallet, the marketplace is super important. We did a survey to know what people expect this day, what's the Counterparty community expects. And they really want something easy to use, to be able to trade their assets, to view the data, as you can see on Ethereum, but even ordinals, which is, I would say, more wild technically, but there's still much better experiences on ordinals. And if we want to have something that is strong today, we need at least to be as good as the other and even do better.
Yeah, I agree as well. Some of the stats that I have seen, or from the survey that you did, said 88% need an easy to use marketplace, 84% want better market data insights, and 82% need a user-friendly multi-platform wallet. So if I'm a user, and let's kind of just walk through Counterparty Marketplace. I'm a user, I open up Counterparty Marketplace. What am I going to see? What is being presented to me? Is this something that's going to look similar to OpenSea? And what are some new features that you're introducing in the Counterparty Marketplace that may not exist in the current native experience?
So if we look at the ecosystem right now on Counterparty, there is a lot of great projects, whether it's Rare Pepe, Spells, and a lot of creative things, collections that are out there on the market, but and stamps as well, which branded themselves a bit differently from Counterparty. There is a lot of creating thing, but there is nothing that unify them. There is a great Rare Pepe website that works for Rare Pepe, but not for other collections. So the idea of the market is one, ability to discover all the collection, to be able to see everything that exists on Counterparty, but also see what are the trending collection, what are the new collection. If somebody is creating something new, being able to discover it. Right now, it's very hard with the current stage. And also, one very important thing for collector is maybe it's a difference between also other protocols like Ethereum. On Ethereum, you have the concept of a smart contract that issue kind of a collection of tokens. Within Counterparty, there is nothing that regroup a collection. You have different tokens that are called assets on Counterparty, where what regroup them is a community. It's an external website, and Counterparty is really built on collections like SOG collection, Rare Pepe collection, and having to have user submitted content, and everything that works on Counterparty except SOG, I would say, is communities that come together and create together a collection. And this is very, very important. And from a collector perspective, we put a lot of effort to be able to see like your completion rate of a collection and to really facilitate the possibility for people to create collection that are user curated, community curated. And we want to really emphasize this ability when it comes to the minter, to be able to easily mint and to submit to a collective, just like Rare Pepe and many, many other collections.
Interesting. So I have here pulled up, or I watched part of your live stream, and it looked like you were able to purchase some of these collections in Pepe Cash and the Spells of Genesis coin and XCP. Is that how it's going to be upon rollout? And in the preview, it didn't appear that there were Bitcoin-enabled purchases. Will that be a feature that's coming to Counterparty Marketplace?
Yeah, excellent question that we have a lot. We are aware that the direct Bitcoin is the most important thing for accessibility to bring new users. So Bitcoin markets are super important. Right now, with the current state of Counterparty, you can exchange in a decentralized manner to Counterparty token. But you cannot really do it with Bitcoin. I mean, it adds a layer of complexity. It might change with all the improvements that are being working on. But today, if you want a reliable way to DEX, this decentralized trade something, you need to exchange a Counterparty token for another Counterparty token. So we are exploring really every direction, keeping in mind that Bitcoin markets are super important, and see what it is possible with the technology. And one way, depending on how the protocol evolves, one way might be to present a Bitcoin price and do the conversion under the hood in the native collection currency. So this is all still on work and might change, but I will say the by default DEX is currently token to token. There is also an important aspect when it comes to collection. The Pepe Cash, for example, or even the BitCrystal, some people are very attached to Pepe Cash. And collection currencies, because it's also a way to create a community currency or a cross-project currency, which is also interesting by essence, because it's something that reunites the community and really makes you enter to have a community or collection currency. So it's all being carefully thought, looking at the available technology, usability, and community dynamics, and the things might change along the way.
Hey Shaban, when do you think you'll have a site up live that people can begin interacting with?
Probably a couple of months before we have something to play with. There are a lot of different features that we are thinking to implement or develop that will come along the way. But I would say by the end of the year to have something usable and playable for the beta user, for example. That is the current target.
And will this marketplace have the web extension Counterparty wallet integrated, or will it have to use Unisat or Xverse or something of that nature?
So definitely. So the idea is that you connect with a web-based wallet, and I think we're all super excited to hear that Horizon is coming with one, because it's an important stone for the user experience. So of course if it can be compatible with as much wallets as possible, that would be ideal. Unisat, so right now we just connect, but we do some R&D with the PBST, so like how you can sign a transaction with a foreign wallet, which is not Counterparty designed. So it depends a little bit how it will develop, but for sure the Horizon wallet will be compatible, and that's the target. No, any Counterparty capability wallets that works on the browser will be integrated in the marketplace.
And from a marketplace operator, I also have to say as well, building a marketplace is not easy. It's a ever evolving process. There's always going to be bugs. There's always going to be new features. There's always going to be new collections. There's going to be changes to the underlying protocol or just the overall sentiment of the community. What's your perspective, or what's your thoughts on, I'm just going to go through kind of some of the questions that marketplaces have to go through. Have you taken any consideration into royalties and implementing them? I know it's not native to Bitcoin, but it's always a conversation that creators are looking for. And then what's your thoughts around a marketplace fee, as it's generally a pretty standard way to generate revenue? Have you came to terms on what that percentage will be?
So the final business model has not been decided yet, and the question of royalties, of course, it's a super tricky question. So either you go fully decentralized, and then you cannot have royalties unless it's built in the protocol, which is super complicated to handle. And the other way is to kind of centralize some of the feature and being able to collect and redistribute royalties. So we need to find the right balance. Personally, and of course that has not been decided within the team or whatsoever, but personally, I kind of see that royalties are very important to bring in creator, even though it breaks a little bit the idea of true ownership, where you own something and the creator don't have any touch on it. But the royalties are very, very important to bring in creator, because they can get something out of the secondary market. And specifically, if you want to build a business model where it's cheap to mint or even free to mint, and then you earn as your collection grows and gets more and more popular. And this method, which is close to the free-to-play method, where you engage first the community for free and then monetize later, I think it's a great way to onboard user. So royalties are, I think, a great thing to attract collectors and build community faster. The caveat, of course, is If you have a marketplace, then we saw it with Blur and OpenSea. Suddenly another competitor marketplace slash the royalties and takes the market share. It does not happen when the protocol is small, like Tezos, for example. They're still enforcing royalties left and right because the community is quite together and they all appreciate and accept the royalties factors. But as it grows, people get more and more anonymous and there is much less respect, community respect, and this might change. But as the community is small, I think the royalties are an interesting feature to implement, and this will imply to centralize some feature a little bit. So the raw idea is when you pay with Bitcoin, if you have a Bitcoin market, then the royalties are charged. But if you use the native collection currency, for example, you can choose to fully exchange decentralized in a decentralized way, which would be the expert mode, and that would not yield royalties.
Awesome. If I'm a creator, or let's say I'm deploying a collection, what's the process to being listed on Counterparty Marketplace? Is it something as simple as, an automated kind of like an automated process where I just upload, the files to it? Do I have to reach out to you, or are you not taking new collections and you're just presetting it for the time being?
So the idea is to have an exhaustive view on the markets and on existing collections, and encourage people to create new ones with a minter tool, an easy to use minter tool, and community management feature like ability to create a collection where a user can submit their own token. I would say that would be a future features. So our plan is to really focus on the community feature, but of course we're delivering the basis marketplace where we have an extensive listing. But also, as we're creating a collection of specific collectible to fundraise the marketplace. We want to offer utility to those token holder that will benefit from a frontline, for example, listing if they have a new collection, because we expect that in the future a lot more collection will pop up as it will be easy to create. Like the OpenSea experience, when OpenSea started, they listed just the 10 or 100 Ethereum collection. But at some point, there were so many collections that people then opt into OpenSea and not OpenSea adapting to the current market. So basically, first we will be very exhaustive, but as the things grow, we're gonna give advantage to the marketplace, I would say stakeholders, who own the collection of cards that we're issuing, and allow people to create easily community and user curated collections.
How are you thinking about stamps? Are you thinking about including stamps on the site, or what's your thought process on stamps?
Definitely, the stamps are part of Counterparty family. It's Counterparty token basically, so it's surely there. And I personally love the idea of stamps, like storing within in-chain the assets for longevity. So I see stamps as a storage. So the vehicle is the Counterparty technology, and the stamp idea is to store your metadata in-chain, as opposed to a centralized server or to IPFS, for example. So within the so integrating stamps is definitely part of the plan and the family.
Final question for you. You mentioned community raise, and there's a handful of forms that you've been pushing in terms of a whitelist for something called the Future Forgotten Relics. Would you like to describe what this is? What's the mission, the agenda, and the objective of this?
Yeah, so we thought okay, so we are all in on Counterparty this past time, and what Counterparty need is really like a 360 team. So we have a strong tech team, but Counterparty also need community. It needs UI, UX, and different skills. That's our people that you usually have to pay. And other projects, protocols, they are have money from VC, and they can use all this money to do marketing, to do a lot of things to grow the network. So I thought, okay, what Counterparty is very decentralized, but still needs resources, still needs to pay people to work on it. And I thought, okay, what are the things that we have that we can create, or to create something that is cool, new, but also old, because we are old relic thing. So like, what are our best treasure that we could put on sale, not to finance Spells of Genesis, the game itself that we did in 2015, but all the awesomeness that we are, the Counterparty needs, basically. And the I thought to use like our tokens that were relics minted in 2015, but were misprints or not used, and use also assets of our history, images that we never used, or past projects, or stories, and attach these assets that are old to an old token, but it would be creating a new product, like something new on sale. That's why it's called the Future of Forgotten Relics. So it's a bridge between the past and the future. And so I wanted to create a collection that are the best treasure, the highest treasure that we have at EDS, that we can put on sale to finance the development, and put basically the team that we have that has various skills on this project. So we wanted the cool things that the community will love, and that will be useful in the future. And also, once again, we like complicated things. So we like things that are quite new. And there is this idea of each of the 8 assets that you have are a cover of a story, and people will receive the chapters. So new tokens using Counterparty dividends. So basically, your asset will make babies of new token drop as we accomplish milestones that are community milestones. For example, the number of Discord followers, there is a price, XCP price that needs to reach. So we give some common goals, and then when we reach that, the covers make the baby. So the owner, somebody who bought a cover, will receive some baby tokens that will have markets that will be desirable by the new generation of people who will join Counterparty, because it's super simple, easy, fast, and everything. So it's a collectible past relic, but also a story that we call story token that evolve as the marketplace, as the ecosystem evolves as well.
Nice. So I've pinned up to the top the application for the whitelist. What am I getting if I sign up for the whitelist? Are you airdropping stuff to me? Am I just a participant? Let me know.
I don't want to promise free things because the idea is to when you participate to the whitelist, it gives you the possibility. There is a very limited supply of those tokens, so you'll be able to buy the token before the public listing. This is one thing, but we also have gifts, of course, for people. I would say not only on the whitelist, but in general, who are helping, like filling the survey and things that are giving value to Counterparty.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to come up here or comment on the live stream. Do you see Dave? We do have Davis on stage. Good to see you, brother. Do you have any questions for Adam or Shaban?
Hey, Jakes. Thanks for having me up. I do have a question. That one thing that I think Counterparty has that's super interesting is token issuance ownership. And I was wondering if Adam has any future plans to have a protocol level way to trade that, just like I might trade a token I own. So in the future, maybe trading, Mike might want to trade the ownership of Rare Pepe for, I don't know, a Node Monk or something, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. That's sort of that's the kind of thing that I was referring to when I was saying we would go beyond existing DeFi protocols. When we are sort of able to tokenize more than is currently tokenized. And, I keep on adding this kind of smart contract functionality to Counterparty later this year. Totally agreed.
Cool. Also, could you comment on, I'm not sure if I might have stepped away when you talked about it, but sub assets on numerics. And then I was reading up Mike and Space's idea on glyphs, and I thought that was really, really interesting. You have any thoughts on that upgrade?
Yeah, I think sub assets on numerics is a great idea. I think it came from Mike and Space. We've been working pretty closely with the Stamps team to bring them back into the fold, to sort of make that a more collaborative relationship. They were unfortunately kicked off of the network in a real way over the past few years, and we want to reverse that relationship. We want it to be collaborative, constructive, where if they're building on top of Counterparty or in a Counterparty compatible way, we want to encourage that and make sure that Counterparty can support users like them and others.
Awesome. It's incredible to hear. What's up, Chris? You got a question for Adam or Shaban?
Yo. Yeah, man. Adam, it's great to see you, heads down building. Feel like it's been about a year now. Your energy still seems high. Your commitment still seems high. What about a little bit of info, maybe on the builder's journey, maybe some of the struggles, some of the challenges, maybe some of the things that you're excited for coming up, and what's kind of keeping you going here at this moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been really exciting. It's been, I think, a little over 8 months. I think I came back in January. It's been really great to see the encouragement and support from the community. The hardest part is sort of seeing when there's a couple of loud voices on Telegram or what have you that are sort of antagonistic, picking fights just to pick fights, that have nothing better to do, and than sort of argue and that's disappointing, right? It's really nice when people sort of recognize that stuff can be better, stuff can be built, and that are encouraging of that. And when people actually actively engage with the proposals and say, this is interesting, or like, what about this? Or, have you considered that? Or what have you, instead of just sort of saying, well, you're not allowed to change anything. In general, the support has been overwhelming. And I felt very encouraged by that. People like people are wanting this sort of stuff, and frankly, what I've been working on is what people want. It's been getting the features out there that are in high demand, and that's always been my North Star for this project so far, and I think it'll continue to do that. There's a lot of ideas out there as to how we can make Counterparty better, and I like building stuff, right? I like getting stuff in people's hands, and the past 8 months have been a lot of behind the scenes work. So it hasn't been so user facing as I described. That's changing now with the next release, with the launch of the Horizon Explorer, with the launch of Horizon Wallet coming up, with the supporting Shaban's work with the marketplace. Things are starting to be released in a way that's great, and the patience that the community's had while we've been cleaning up cleaning up and back in order to prepare for those kinds of big changes has been really, really nice to see.
Love it. And maybe just one more touch point on, we have a much more responsive code base. Everything's kind of zoning in. A lot of background work has been done and completed. What are your thoughts about maybe attracting more developers, and what are maybe some of those things that you'd like to see those developers focus on? Maybe something that's missing in the ecosystem currently?
Good question. I think that there sort of can't be too many. I think that, one thing that's been really great is seeing the different explorers out there. We've released our own explorer, my team at Expendable Labs. It's called Horizon Explorer, and it's a generalist explorer, right? It's designed to sort of be a reference implementation of an explorer, because we haven't had one besides Xchain, which is now named something else, for a long time. And that should be an invitation for other people to build additional explorers that are targeting different use cases, different usage patterns, et cetera, that have additional features and specializations and different designs. That's all very important. The same thing goes for wallets. We're going to build a wallet which is going to support all of the standard counterparty features. We're going to show you how we think we can use these features, but people should continue to build those as well. I encourage people to be economically active, right? To figure out how to work with the new atomic swaps, right? And figuring out what it's like to trade on that new marketplace that's going to be created. And that means using tools like the one that Shaban is building, Shaban's team. That's all sort of where it's really, really good. And we're not going to do all the work of integrating with every other L2. It'll work. You'll be able to use the API to do that, but we're not necessarily going to build all that UX right out of the box. I want other people to beat us to it. Building on top of the Counterparty API, which is recently revamped and much easier to use. And if you have any ideas or questions how to do that, always shoot me a message.
Yeah, and I would add on that, again, sorry for comparing, but Ethereum, I think, has been really, really, really great in developer marketing. So it's also a task, like how to present things to developer, tutorials, things that's part of developer marketing. And this is something we would like to address as well in terms of general counterparty marketing, now that there is great APIs and things, to have information that are more accessible for developer and make them excited to build things on top of Counterparty. And that's also part of the success of a protocol, is to be able to attract developer. And that's a part that we will put effort on.
Awesome. It's really cool to hear everybody building. And Adam, we got you on the interoperability layer. It's one of our agendas. Moving in over, the next 6 months is expanding to all these L2s, whether it's a Bitcoin L2, EVM L2, or XYZ kind of Bitcoin Meta protocol. So we'll make that a frictionless experience. If there is no other questions out there, then I think we will wrap it up here. Adam McBride, any final questions or any final comments here?
No, I think this is great. It's interesting because building these communities, you need obviously the tech layer. To Shaban's point, it has to be developer friendly so people can come in and build interesting stuff. It's going to be great to see the foundational layer, which is like the wallet infrastructure, and see that update, Adam, and that's going to be exciting because I do think Counterparty does need to kind of get over that hurdle where for just the normie kind of user, it'll be really nice to have just a really slick wallet for sure. And just exciting stuff. It's great to see. Obviously, we all love Counterparty and excited that you guys are building this thing out.
Yeah. Also, one final comment from me is I'm glad to see the development direction going towards decentralizing the application layer, versus, centralizing it and trying to create this full vertical stack. Just when you look at, the current state of Bitcoin or Bitcoin meta protocols, there's one hot contention right now is, BRC20 versus Runes, where Casey built the code base and then allowed, the developer community to basically battle out for the application layer. Where on the other side, BRC20 is just completely owned by Unisat. And for that reason, they can scale a little bit faster. But it creates, this kind of, walled garden in a sense where if you allow the application layer to decentralize, it develops a little bit slower. But, as Shaban has said about attracting, developers, that seems to be the winning model on Bitcoin. So I'm glad to see that direction is going there. You guys are doing a good job. And final notes here. Adam, myself, and Chris, we work at Emblem Vault, the leading cross-chain NFT solution in the industry. We host the show Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Tomorrow, we are hosting the OpNet team talking about execution layers and bringing smart contract programmability to Bitcoin. And on Thursday, we are hosting a Namecoin space. We haven't had one of those in about a year as we completed our migrations for all the Namecoin assets. So we'll have a good time. We do have a full slate next week as well, but we will discuss that. If you're new to Emblem, please make sure you follow the Emblem account. We have a lot of things coming down the pipeline. As we mentioned in the beginning of the show, Counterparty trading activities for Spells of Genesis, Rare Pape, Saratobi, they're all drastically increasing. I think a lot of people are getting excited about native infrastructure that's been improving, as well as the interoperable layer of Emblem has also been improving as well. Please follow Shaban and Adam as well to stay in touch with Counterparty and the Counterparty marketplace. Really awesome conversation, gentlemen. I look forward to this conversation maybe some point at the end of the year. Until then, everybody, please be safe, have fun, have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning with the OpNet team.